Are at Real Life and Law, and today, it's Friday, and I'm a little late. Normally, I try to get on here. I'm a lot late. I'm a lot late. You try to get on here usually between 8 and 12, so we're a little late. Had a lot of stuff going on, but today we will be recording this and taking your questions if you've got them. Want to talk about I hate doing this solo. My daughter Elizabeth was supposed to be helping me, so I'm going to throw her under the bus for a little bit. I'm going to talk about corruption, government corruption, police corruption. Um, so, whatever that means to you, if you've got a question, you can send it through the chat. If you are looking in on me at TT, someone give me a holler and let me know that you hear me and you see me most importantly. If you're on YT or FB, somebody give me a shout out. If you're over on TT and you're hearing me, won't you drop on over and give me a little sound? Give me a little sound check. Thank you. Thank you, Lori and Brenda. All right. So, if you are on the other platforms, why don't you someone go on over on the other platforms and give me a little bit of a sound check or a mic check. So, one of the things I oh, Carolyn over on YT. Thank you, Carolyn, for jumping over and helping me out, guys. I appreciate it. Guys, if you get a chance, subscribe to all of my channels. You see all of my social media stuff. Subscribe to it. It helps me. I'm trying to build this YT channel. My FB is okay. I got a bunch of followers, so you can still I'm trying to scooch everybody over to my YT whenever I can. I am live on YouTube. Someone else saw me. Carolyn just send me a big hello. Yes, I am live over on the YT because Carolyn says so. Damn it. That's what the Rock. Is that what the Rock said? Because I said so, or is that Steve Austin? I think that's Steve Austin. I always get Steve Austin and the Rock confused, but I think Steve Austin was because I said so. Damn it. So, want to talk. I'm live on here. It says I am. I just got a comment from Miss Caroline, so I know I'm live. She says so. Thank you, guys. So let's talk about corruption. There's one, and I had a it's a Brent Li- Elizabeth. Thank you. Elizabeth shout me out here, or my daughter. I wish she was here. I think it's the same one. Elizabeth, my daughter. She's supposed to be co-hosting this. So, um, thank you, Lori. There's a case. It's interesting. I talk a lot about police corruption and government corruption. I do a lot of videos about police. I'm a former prosecutor and I currently do criminal defense work. A lot of times, so I'm going to say this from the outset, and it's going to rankle a lot of people's feathers, but that's okay. When most people have a bad outcome, and this is most people, when most people have a bad outcome, their natural inclination is to say the fix was in corruption, whether it's a social worker, whether it's a prosecutor, whether it's a judge. All them judges and those prosecutors go out to lunch together, or all those the lawyers go out together, the prosecutors and the criminal defense lawyers, they all go out together. So there must be corruption. No, most of the time, what you think is corruption is just dewlessness sometimes, laziness, sloppiness, not caring. That's normally what happens. Someone drops a ball because they don't care. They drop the ball because they're lazy. They drop the ball because they're not trained. That's why you don't get the outcome sometimes. And sometimes, let's face it, most of the time, I don't even say sometimes, I say most of the time, if you don't get the outcome you wanted, it's because your case was crappy. You had a bad case. The facts were bad or the law was bad. That's why most people, but instead of just laying it off on, themselves or their case. They got to blame the lawyer. They got to blame a judge. They got to blame a social worker. Anybody else but them, because obviously it can't be you, right? If you have a bad outcome. So corruption is a big, heavy word. It means certain things. And so when you get right down to it, if you're claiming that you had a bad outcome because of some type of corruption, the first question you got to ask yourself is, why would these people who you say are corrupt against you, what do they have to gain for being corrupt? What is in it for them? What's the motivation for that individual, that governmental agent, that lawyer, that judge, that policeman? What is in it for them to pick you out of all the things they've got to do and pick you and decide to be corrupt against you? First off, corruption takes more than one person. It usually takes two or three people. Now, am I saying that corruption isn't real and that it doesn't happen? No, I'm not saying that, because it does. But it is nowhere near the problem that you think when everybody starts talking about their case and corruption. So, what makes you special that these people would risk their job, risk their money, risk their reputation in the community? What would what would they get for being corrupt against you? So that's always the first question. And if you can't answer that question, and with some kind of, if you can't answer that question, then it's not corruption. And if you've got to answer with some kind of reasonableness. Like, the question is, okay, the police is corrupt against me. Well, what is in it for the police to be corrupt against you? What does that judge have to gain to be corrupt against you? What does that social worker have to gain to be against you? And all these people have to work together. A corruption uh, indicates that more than one person got together, developed a plan solely to get back at YOU. And that just doesn't happen. I mean, it does, but it's not likely to happen. So, uh, you've got to answer that question first. And if there's a real, probably a legitimate reason that you believe people are corrupt, then there's usually mechanisms around it. If you have receipts, but just because you had a bad outcome does not mean people are corrupt against you. But you always hear that. So there's particularly one part of corruption that truly bothers me, and that's uh, in the criminal field. When you see people put in jail because there was a bad district attorney or there was a bad cop, that happens. But I'm going to tell you, it's not for the reason you think it is. Most of the time, corruption in a criminal case occurs when there's a lot of pressure put on the local police or the local district attorney to get a conviction on a crime that's kind of hit the social consciousness, let's say. They rush a case to court, they get an indictment, and they rush someone through trial. And if you get a prosecutor who truly is of a mind to solve a problem instead of looking for justice, looking for the truth, because that's what a prosecutor is supposed to do. A prosecutor is supposed to search for the truth. Their job ain't to get somebody. So you get a situation where a lot of, and I don't want to say a lot, but some prosecutors can give in to that social pressure. And then in turn, the prosecutors are going to lean on the police officers, maybe the mayor, the mayor, the political figure, the politician in the prosecutor's office, because these prosecutors mostly are elected. The lead prosecutor in most towns and cities are political figures. Their assistants aren't political figures generally, but it comes from the top down. So if you have a political prosecutor and then you have a mayor, obviously that's tied into politics. And if there's something really bad that happens in the community and there's some kind of crime, then all it takes is for the police to get that machine going and and you put the squeeze on somebody that maybe has a record. Maybe they done some bad things, but they didn't do the thing that the communities is all up in arms over. Maybe they didn't do that thing, but they're a likely candidate. And so therefore the police set out with a narrative, and everybody that they meet, they try to squeeze into that narrative. It happens routinely this way. But it's not because they got it in for you. That's not it. You ain't the star of the show. They got it in. They got to get the pressure off of them because this thing happened. That's that is what motivates. That's what motivates those people. Is sorry about that phone ringing. I'm not taking any calls right now. So that's the corruption. Is that they are trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, which leads me to a case. Uh, my wife, she looks at the news, and my daughter Elizabeth look at the news all the time. And I do a lot of stuff on, not a lot, but a fair amount on death penalty. I have a very good long form video interview with a priest. He's very active in our local church in Florida, in the Daytona Beach area, about the death penalty. In fact, that's his primary mission. That's what drives him. He is anti death penalty. He don't believe that the government should be engaged in that, and I kind of agree with him about halfway on that. But be that as it may, there are people. It's an absolute fact. There are people on death row right now that have been convicted because of bad lawyering, bad policing, political policing. And there are people out there on death row just because of those reasons. It ain't that they got it in for somebody. It ain't that they're corrupt in the way that you think about corruption. Most people, when they talk about corruption, think that just a wad of dollar bills get you out of a mess, and that's not so. If all it took was money, OJ wouldn't have been found guilty from the smash and grab he tried to do in Nevada. Jeffrey Epstein would not have been to the pokey. A lot of famous people go to jail that have a lot of money. It ain't a wad of cash. That's not the kind of corruption that that happens on any kind of a regular basis, and it seldom happens. Now, there was an incident where a judge was farming out young kids who were wayward and whose mother, beyond parental control, he would get these and he was getting a kickback for every kid that he got into this juvenile system. So, there is that. It happens. Every now and then you got a bad judge. Eric Kahn, if you look at corruption on a different level, Eric C. Kahn was a prominent Social Security lawyer, one of probably the preeminent Social Security lawyers in the country. He'd get you your disability. If you were in Eastern Kentucky back years ago, I can't remember when Eric Kahn case went to court. Maybe someone in the chat will research that and let us know. But Eric Kahn got in trouble because he had a doctor and a judge in his team. Now that's corruption. That's corruption. That's what corruption looks like. He went out and found found a judge that he could pay. He found a doctor that he could pay, and he just sent people through. That is the corruption that most people are talking about, where you roll out a bunch of cash and you get people to do things that are against the law or against their code of ethics. That's the corruption that most people are talking about. That is the rarest type of corruption. Most of the time when people talk about corruption, it's just ineptitude. But when we talk about our criminal justice system, which I believe, and this is a rant, but I believe we have the best criminal justice system in the world. In the world. And everybody knows it. We have the presumption of innocence, which I don't know of any other country that has the Constitution that we have. England doesn't. If you go across the pond where we came from back in the early 1700s, they are now, they don't have the freedom of speech that we have. They're putting people in jail for expressing their opinions on various topics, by the way. They're doing that now. They don't have the First Amendment that we have. Most countries don't have the Second Amendment that we have. So, okay, thank you for that. Eric C. Kahn was caught in December 2017. Thank you for that. And that comes to me from, it looks like Brenda, maybe. Let me know if I got that all screwy, Brenda. Don't have my glasses on, but it looks like. So someone in the chat's telling me that Eric C. Kahn, was caught in December of 2017. So that's been a while ago. But he had this, his case is the classical corruption at work. He had money, he paid people. That's what most people, but when they use that word corruption, that's what corruption is. It's seldom that these group of people wake up one morning and all of a sudden have the hots for you and want to put you in the pokey. Thank you, Brenda. Brenda Gillespie, it looks like. So thank you, Brenda. So that's the type of corruption. But, and I will stand by this until I cannot breathe anymore. We have the best criminal and civil justice system in the world. You can petition the government for redress for criminal cases, civil matters. You can always go to court. You can always go to court, and you don't have to pay to go to court. Anybody can bring a case. Now, you have to pay a filing fee. You have to get somebody to file it for you, or you can file it yourself. You just pay your filing fee, you get the thing served, and you can sue anybody. You could sue the president if you got $700. You know, it ain't gonna work out for you, but you can do it. You can sue your neighbor. You can sue your employer. You can sue anybody if you got enough money in your pocket. But at some point, you got to come with the receipts. So corruption, we've got the best system in the world. I believe that, our civil justice system and our criminal justice system. So there's a case, a fella, just the other day. So bear with me. I am legally blind, so I'm gonna hold this up to my face so I can see it. Have a case. My wife sent it to me, and I looked at. I can't recall their names. I've done a lot today here, so let's look at him. Let's see, where did the case come out of? And you can find it. It was on several news sources. Former death row inmate. His name was Richard Glossip. Richard Glossip. 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 Take a look at it. He was just released. The Supreme Court. This dude, listen to what this dude has endured over the past several years. He has endured 9 execution dates. Now, every time you go through a different phase of an appeal, you get a different date. You get a different execution date. 9 times he's had an execution date set for him. 9 times. 3 times. 3 of those 9 times. Now imagine, put yourself in this position. 3 of those times he had a last meal. Now, if you don't know anything about the prison system, when you get granted that last meal, you've got about 3 hours or 4 hours left. You don't have many. Your time is ticking. You're down to minutes of your life. So this dude has sat through 3 last meals. And finally, I guess he got some good lawyers. I would be interested to know. I think it doesn't say here in the article whether he was represented by the Innocence Project, but the Innocence Project does a lot of good work. And if you don't know about the Innocence Project, I think that was the group founded by Jeffrey Feiger. Jeffrey Feiger was part of I believe he was part of the OJ team, but most notably, Feiger was um, represented Jack Kevorkian. He represented Jack Kevorkian when Kevorkian, if you know him, they called him Dr. Death because he did, um, assisted unaliving, let's say it. He helped people stop breathing. That's what Jack Kevorkian did. And when I think it was in Michigan, Michigan sued him many times, and Jeffrey Feiger represented him. And it was Feiger's belief, and it was Dr. Kevorkian's belief that these people had the right to pass away the way that they wanted to pass away with dignity, as he called it. And I can't disagree with him on that. I think though, in order for a person to do that, and I'm gonna get off a little bit, just a tad, but I think though to flesh this out in my beliefs, if you're asking, or you really give a crap about what I believe about it, uh, uh, no, Jeffrey Feiger. So I'll right. Barry Sheck. I'm confusing Barry Sheck. Jeffrey Feiger. Am I confusing Jeffrey Feiger with Barry Sheck? One of those did the Innocence Project. I almost think it was Feiger, but maybe not. However, anyway, that's not really relevant. We talk about the Innocence Project is relevant. I don't think Barry Sheck was part of that. Okay, so Barry Sheck. I'm sorry, Jeffrey Feiger. Sorry, just forget that last 3 minutes. Barry Sheck, Jeffrey Feiger, uh, they might be the same person. Who knows? Okay, so thank you in the comments. Always, this is real time fact checking. So Barry Sheck, uh, somehow I don't think he did. Okay, so Barry Sheck did the Innocence Project. All right, anyway. So the Innocence Project does really good work in getting people that are on death row, um, getting right down in it, pulling up their shirt sleeves and doing the work that's needed to be done in order to find the truth. Because it's not, at the end of the day, it ain't about lighting somebody up. And if someone needs to be lit up, I'm okay with that as long as it's done the right way, as long as it's done properly. So we have this fella, this Glossop fella, Richard Glossop. Look him up, look it up, look at that case, look at what happened. He was granted a new trial because the prosecutor ignored the fact that the someone came forward and admitted to the crime. Glossop was accused of Murder. I'm not sure what I can say on these platforms, so I'll just spell it just like you as my child or my grandchild. And all these years later, someone listened and understood what the problem was. So you had a prosecutor that was probably motivated to solve the case. You had the police probably motivated to solve the case, and mayors and all that structure, they're motivated to solve the case. And if you read this, there's a book, and I talk about it all the time. So I'm gonna drop it. They're not paying me. The book's not paying me, but I talk about it all the time. It was such an enlightening book. I read it maybe a year ago. It's titled Framed, and it is a John Grisham book. It's different than most any other John Grisham book that I have read in that he co-wrote it with another individual, and they took 10 death row cases, death penalty cases, and they interviewed these people. And the Innocence Project was a part of this, although their work was part of this book. But what they did is they dissected all these cases where some of these people were let go. There were a couple instances in the book, if I can remember correctly, where the Innocence Project found that what was done was incorrect, but what ran out of time. and the person was executed. So we have this fella here, Glossop, who sat all these years waiting, had dates, had minutes, and he was let out. Not from DNA, but because someone on his behalf had uncovered situations where prosecutor was not doing the right thing. And it happens. So you've got that. And someone mentioned Karen Reed. We watched there's Karen Reed movie on Netflix, I believe. What was done now? See, I come a little different on Karen Reed. So, do I think she was treated poorly by the police? Absolutely. In fact, some of those police officers lost their job, and as well they should. Did they plant evidence on her? I don't really know. I think the investigation was so sloppy. That all by itself was the reasonable doubt for me. Once you heard, and she was tried twice. The prosecutor tried her twice. So why would that prosecutor try her twice? Because it was politically expedient. He gets the limelight, his name gets in the paper. I'm not sure there's an election cycle going on, but I'll bet you there was at some point. He used that as free media. You get a big high profile case like that, you don't got to run no ads. You're sitting right there. Everybody's talking about you every daggone day at your local news outlet if you're in Massachusetts. So I think that was those cops trying to protect each other or protect his name. I personally believe, and this is my take on Miss Daybell, and Miss Daybell, why do I call her Lori Daybell? That's a whole nother can of worms. My take, and I don't think my wife likes it when I say this, but I think Karen Reed was a badge bunny. Anybody know what a badge bunny is? I've been around enough as a prosecutor and as a criminal defense attorney. You see them all the time. There's these ladies that are chasing the police. It's these ladies that are chasing a badge. So I think she was a badge bunny. And I think, and the testimony showed this, she showed up at a party, had one dude, and I think he was the officer that got um, that lost his life. And another dude was there that was supposed to be with her. And I think that she had those fellas all in an uproar and got a little jealous. And I think they commenced to beat the hell out of each other and literally beat the hell out of one fella and throwed him out there in the snow. Now, yeah, hot badge to badge. Yeah, we got that in the, yeah. So you, it's hard to know. See, in cases where the police have an objective and they don't really try to let the facts lead them, when they try a self-fulfilling prophecy, this is what you get. Did they plant evidence? I don't know. But because the case is such a mess, I think the jurors in that second case had no option because there was reasonable doubt. And reasonable doubt isn't if men from Mars come down and did what they did. No, that's not reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt has to be reasonable under the circumstances. And I believe because the police screwed up so badly, and when you saw those text messages from those dirty cops, talking about this lady and her colostomy and making fun of her, when the jurors saw that, I don't think they needed anything else. If I'm sitting there in that jury box and I see a bunch of these yahoos making fun of this lady, and she was probably a badge bunny, I'm going to say that again. But so what? She didn't deserve to be treated the way she was treated by that district attorney and those police officers. So I think, there was plenty of reasonable doubt you didn't have to believe that men from Mars came down and had an influence on that case. Plenty of reasonable doubt. Plenty of reasonable doubt. So if you look at that case, now, did they have it out for her specifically? No. I think their objective was just to hide. I think they were trying to hide the fact that one of their brothers did the other one in. That's what I think. We will never know unless someone in that group comes forward. But I believe that's what happened. I believe they were out there fighting and she shows up at the club and yeah, but if you look at the evidence backing into him with a car, those tail lights, someone said in the comment, they're covering they said she backed into him, with her car. Listen, you ain't causing the damage to a tail light with your fist. You could not the strongest fella in the world couldn't haul off and bust a tail light without having horrible injuries. There was no injuries. You can't back into a person and bust a tail light with your leg. I'm sorry, you can't do it. Yeah, so yes, thank you, Joseph. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just saying I don't think I don't think that that's the deal. I think they were covering up for their the someone wants to know in chat, are they gonna retry this gossip? I don't think so. They may, but you're looking at the passage of time and the evidence is gone. And what I don't think now the courts don't do this lightly. So there must have been really credible evidence because you have to have a hearing. In order to get stuff like that overturned, you have to have a big hearing and you have to show what kind of evidence you've got to overturn. You have to have a hearing on that. So whatever evidence was presented must have been good enough for the court to overturn that. And I don't think those prosecutors, and they're probably not even there now, because that was a long time ago. I don't think that prosecutor in that case wants to have all that crap dredged up. Who knows what they've got? They may have some kind of phone conversation, some kind of email. Yeah, so they're probably yeah, Kitty. Thank you, Kitty. Kitty's telling us that he served 30 years. Yeah, he has served 30 years. And now he might have a rap. I'll guarantee you that he's got a rap sheet as long as your leg. Right? Let's put it out there. That's why the police got him. It's easy to get him. And there was somebody that lied on him. The person that lied on him and the person that admitted to doing it, they were probably in cahoots together on other crimes because that's the way that works. And then you get these prosecutors going into these jail cells and getting these jailhouse snitches and paying. This dude was paid for that. Well, and okay, I love that question. Thank you for that question. I gotta say, I got a I got a question in the YT. I think it's a long question, so I don't know who sent it to me. Thank you for the question. The question basically is there any recourse when programs like the Innocence Project uncover that type of corruption? Is there any recourse? The recourse is to take it to the local prosecutors, and if it's that egregious, then that person needs to be indicted. There's no doubt about it. If there's a situation like what appears, again, I'm just reading the news article from, we got it from, I think it was an outlet from Fox News, whether or not you like them or not, but it appears to be a credible story. I've seen it repeated several times, but where we got it was on a Facebook page from Fox News. And I do look at other news sources there for anybody who wants to jump on that bandwagon. Um, it looks what should be done is that prosecutor, if that prosecutor is still working, he should be disbarred. There's no doubt about it. There should be a hearing. He should have a complaint filed against him. But the Innocence Projects don't get into that, to my knowledge. That evidence alone should be given to a prosecutor, and the prosecutor should do whatever they can to make the record clear. and to hold these people accountable. The police, the prosecutor, and that should happen. Now let's talk about. So I'm going to leave that for a minute, guys. And if you've got a good question, let's ask it. So what we're just as a little commercial. So I'm going to take a little break and tell you what I've got planned from a YT channel, guys. And please share what we're doing here. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to try to get on here at about 11 o'clock, and we're going to have a show. And if you have a local, now this I'm talking, everything's local. If you have a local issue with corruption, not just something that you've made up in your head, a news article, news outlet where corruption has been uncovered. If you want me to take a look at it and talk about it on my show, I'll do that. If you're a super fan on my TT channel, if you're a subscriber, and if you really want me to take a look at it, there's several ways that you can make a donation, and I would love to do it. $20 donation, would love to have it. If you want me to take your story and take a look at it, do that, and we'll get. So, uh, in Knoxville. Now, let me tell you about this. Oh, thank you. Watching, you're doing the daily double, the TT and the YT. There is a little bit of lag time with the YT, I think, because I'm going through a third party program called Restream, and it might be a little bit of a delay when they send the signal out. So in Knoxville, Knox County, they uncovered some corruption. So now my daughter Elizabeth, who I guess is tuned in to every kind of corruption story in the world, she sent this to me the other day, and she and I discussed it. And the story involves one of these, and you're going to know this, one of these DEA, local DEA, drug enforcement agencies, right? These agencies that are put together on the state level that are designed, and even on the local level, to design to do something with the crime involving illegal substances. So you get these task forces, which I don't like. I don't like them. I think they spend too much money and they give these people too much authority. They give these officers and they don't train them properly. They give them too much authority. And at certain points, they think they're God. And if you look at it, if you look at a lot of these task forces that are tasked with the job of uncovering substance use and criminal activity around substances, there's a lot of corruption there. And there's again the classical type of corruption. There's money out there in illegal substances. They know where it is. They do a smash and grab on people's homes. They collect the substances. So you see it in movies all the time as it happens. It does happen. They find out, they're in the know. They're part of this task force. They get tips. They go in and they do a smash and grab in somebody's home. They get the substances. They log about half of it, and the other half they keep. And they got network of buddies. Nobody's telling on them. You got that thin blue line that we talk. And I'm a prosecutor, but that thin blue line to me wears thin. It wears thin on me. I don't like it. When they start talking about that, it seems creepy to me. It seems like a cult. Anytime you have people talking about that I'm going to support this guy because of the thin blue line, that's baloney. BOLOGNA. We know how to spell it from the commercials. If you're of a certain age, you know what that is. So I hate it. If the only reason you're not going to tell on somebody is the blue line or that brotherhood, that's a cult. Sorry, that's a cult. So you had these guys going in Knox County for 12 years. So my daughter tells me about this story, but yeah, good point. And I'll get to that. Boy, we've got some good. Hopefully that was from the YT. Good point, YT. And if I miss it, come back to it and repost and let me know. So she tells me about the other day, and just as an aside, guys, you're going to see my headphones here. I have macular degeneration. I'm visually impaired. Uh, and I use technology to help read the comments to me. And if you really want to give a good full comment, the YT and the FB is the place to be right now, because TT only lets you give snippets of a question. So she tells me about this story in Knox County, and she says, Dad, how can that happen? It was a sheriff's department that got indicted. There was about 9 or 10 people from the sheriff's department, including the high sheriff. If you're in the South, you know what the high sheriff is. The high sheriff is the elected official, and a lot of deputies were involved. She says, how did that happen? See, so most all of these state agencies have something called, like the FBI. You have the federal FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Tennessee has the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Kentucky has their state police equivalent, where they have a special force that investigates certain crimes. Well, the TBI is tasked, they're a kind of a watchdog. They are supposed to watchdog all these other agencies, which is what they're supposed to do. All these other special state agencies have an investigatory body, and they're supposed to watch everybody else. She said, when she told me the story, I said, no, baby. I said, something don't smell right here. I said, that's a long time ago. And when she told me who was involved, I said, no. I said, I'll bet you the TBI is involved. There's more people involved in this sheriff's department. I'll guarantee you, because you can't do that without having complicity from these watchdog agents. Well, just yesterday or today, she tells me about the story. She said, Dad, the TBI, now they weren't involved. This was a federal grand jury that indicted these people. It wasn't the state. That tells you that these people at TBI turned their head. They had to have known. Someone in the communities probably reported them. There may have been lawyers that reported them, but the TBI ignored it. Why did they ignore it? Because of the brotherhood. That's creepy. That is creepy. So these dudes are, yeah, David, that's exactly what happens. So, guys, if you're looking in on me, I'm going to take a little break. My name is Eugene. I'm an attorney, I'm a former prosecutor, and I currently do criminal defense work. But what I do mostly on my channels is help people get their heinies out of a crack. That's what I do. That's what I like doing. I don't practice a whole lot. I practice enough to make myself mad. I just had a really good outcome on a family law case. If you take a look at my profile, and you'll see that LINK, you'll see it. Click on it. You see some merchandise. You see ways to support me. If you like what I'm doing, we are trying to expand now my YT channel. And I want to include local stuff. If you've got local, for the small price of a $20 cup of coffee, I can bring your story to the program here, and I can talk about it. I would like to do more local corruption on my channel. So we've got a bunch around here too. So we're going to talk about them. But that one from Knox County was particularly good because I thought that again is classic police corruption. And it's corruption in it, but it's classic in a different way. You got a bunch of people in that department and in other agencies that are shutting their eyes and turning their head, even though they know it smells funny. They probably knew something don't smell right. But because of that thin blue line or that blue wall, whatever the hell you want to call it, no one said anything. And so a lot of people, even they were might have been criminals, they might have been using substances illegal. They don't deserve to be treated that way. They have rights. They have rights like everybody else does. And when you have the police taking matters into their own hands and skimming money, um, they don't need to be walking around. They ought to be in the pokey too. They ought to be in the pokey with a lot of the people that they put in the pokey. Let them get chased by the butt pirates. I think that would be nice. They're going to do stuff like that. They deserve it. They swore, they took an oath. So I think jail run pirates might be good for 'em. So you see all that kind of those great examples. Eric Kahn. Then we had the case there in with the fellow on death row, and that was a Supreme Court case. So that went high up. That wasn't no mamsy pamsy kind of a case. So usually these death penalty cases do get they get on the fast track. But want to use this channel, guys, to do some of this. If you have a question, you give me the question. Someone had a question. Let me see if I can on my little handy dandy machine here. Oh, yes. The motivation. And someone left a comment and said $45,000 a year will make you do stuff that's probably maybe against your morals. But you know what? The people that do this, like in this task force out in Knox County, they believe that they're morally justified because these people are dirtbags. They believe that money is ill-gotten and that they probably are entitled to some of it. They tell themselves that. $4,000, well, if you're hungry and you got to send a kid to college, then if you ain't careful, you're liable to sacrifice your morals. And you're probably going to be willing to give in to that oath you took. So, but it ain't the money. And so that's a good comment. But just because you're getting paid $45,000 a year, which is good money for some people, the average in a lot of these states, the average median income in Kentucky is about 29,000. So they're doing pretty damn good. So yeah. So it's it ain't really the money. I don't like to blame money as the cause for bad behavior. You see people do that all the time. Well, they were poor. They were stealing because they were poor. Poverty ain't got nothing to do with being a criminal. Sorry. It's an excuse. I was dirt ass poor. I wasn't knocking off a pharmacy or a gas station. I didn't take a bathroom in Inside John until I was 17. We never had a phone till I went to college. My family didn't. I was raised on food stamps for the better part of my childhood. But I ain't knocking off a grocery store or a convenient market. I'm not doing that because I was raised better. It ain't got nothing to do with money. But that's a good comment. You know, if that's always something easy to point to. And I'm always hesitant to tell people when they start mentioning that, don't use that as an excuse because there's a lot of poor people out there and they don't do that kind of stuff. You're just morally bankrupt when you do that kind of stuff. And that's just the way it is. Um, and I really don't like to bring morals into it, but that's the only way to say it. The only way that I know how to say it. You're kind of morally bankrupt if you give in to doing stuff that's on the other side of what you're supposed to do. You take an oath, you know? And you look at the case here locally. You take Eastern Kentucky and you look at some cases that's going on here. Police corruption. There's a big case. Amber Spradlin was a young, unfortunate lady that was at the wrong place at the wrong time with a bunch of powerful, influential people. And there was a big party at a dentist office or a dentist house. And unfortunately, the dentist's son, McKinney, was accused of unaliving this poor little girl. There was a lot of people involved. But it wasn't really a corruption thing. It was just really police ineptitude. And there might have been some corruption on the part of the mayor, the chief of police, perhaps. They all knew this dentist. This dentist was a prominent fella. So in that situation, was it corruption? I don't think it was out and out corruption in the way that we talk about corruption, but certainly he got the halo effect when he puts a call in to the I can't remember if it was the mayor or the chief of police. He puts a call in when he had discovered that his son possibly did this girl some harm, puts a call in and probably gets some advice. And the police was a little slow to get there. They were slow enough that the doctor, McKinney, got one of his flunkies to go clean it up, just like Surf Pro, just like it never even happened. Put a little bit of Clorox on it, it'll go away. I think was the thought. So they got these guys. But I don't know that they'll ever get the truth in on that case. It's going to be a good it's that's going to be a good case to follow. Amber Spradlin, if those of you all there's a Facebook group. And I would love to get one of those people. If any of y'all know these people, tell them to holler at me. I'd love to have them on my podcast. Now, I like what they do. I like what they have done to get the word out about this poor girl. However, I think in some instances, people have hijacked that Facebook group and turned it into a big gossip and rumor mill. And I think that hurts them in the long run. Anytime there's a lot of exposure out of case, you get a lot of people saying things that they don't know anything about. And when it gets on these social media pages, it makes it tough to get a good, fair trial in a local small community like what we have. So I think in a lot of respects, that group has been good, but it's also got some problems the way that I see it. I think they have created more problems in that trial than good. But if any of y'all know anybody out there, I'd tell them to holler at me. I'm easy to find. I would love to have them on my podcast to talk about anybody that knows what they're doing. Anybody in that Facebook group, not in the group, but the organizers of the group. I think it's Justice for Amber is the name of the group. Exactly. But now see that Carmelo Anthony, someone mentioned that Carmelo Anthony case. I believe was that in Texas? I can't recall. That's the case if you remember, and just off the top of my head, I think it was 2 fellas. There was a track meet or a football practice or something. 2 fellas, uh, they had maybe had beef with each other, or one had beef with the other. But anyway, one of them got STABED in the chest and lost his life. And the fella that did the stabbing said that he was being attacked, and I don't think the evidence is gonna show that. I think he's trying to claim it was self-defense. I just don't think he's gonna be able to do that based on what I've been told. Now, I don't know. I don't have any inside information. Yeah, I just know what I've read. So I think one of those boys was clearly the aggressor, and, deadly force can only be used if you think that you're about ready to lose your life. So I think that's gonna be a problem for that lawyer to try to find the facts sufficient. June 1st, someone tells me that June 1st is the start of that Anthony case. That will be worth I don't know. I would say that maybe Court TV probably has that case. It would be nice. That's a big case to follow. I watch a lot of trial on Court TV whenever I have extra time. I do a lot of Court TV watching because it's fun. I enjoy it if there's good lawyers. If there's good lawyers involved, you can really learn a lot about the court system and how it works. But don't just think if you watch 20 hours of court TV that you can represent yourself. You still can't. What's up, guys? Thank you very much for that. Guys, this has been a great little show. So I appreciate it, guys. I'm live on YT and FB. I have talked my little So they've shut down cameras in there? Okay, yeah, that sucks. I hate it when they do that. So apparently well, and there I don't know, it's not juveniles, right? Are they juveniles? I think I think mostly because they're juveniles that they probably locked it down, but I don't know that for fact, but if they're juveniles and they were juveniles at the time, I think they were under the age of 18, that's probably why. So that's probably why that they're not allowing, usually if juveniles are involved, they don't allow cameras in the courtroom. Someone wants me to opine or talk about the Alex Murdaugh case. So it doesn't matter that's volatile or sensitive. I think it's the age of the people. There's a lot of volatile, sensitive cases. I think having cameras in the courtroom is the best disinfectant. But if there are juveniles involved, I understand that. Alex Murdaugh, as you know, that's the fella that unalived his family, and he's currently, I believe, in prison for stealing. Well, he got a conviction first off for doing what he did to his son, but I think he's also serving time for stealing his client's money. He actually took people who were, I think one of his clients was in a wheelchair, and he got him a huge settlement, and he stole his settlement money. That happens a lot. A lot of lawyers will get involved with that. They'll take money and they'll put it in their escrow account, and they'll take from it, particularly if it's supposed to be in an annuity. They'll tell their clients they've got their money tucked away till they're 18. Maybe they're 7, 8, or 9 years old when they get hurt. And then when they get 18, they go looking for their money, and their lawyer has taken all their money. That sucks. Now the retrial, so let's talk about the retrial. I think he's in jail for that now, but only, the retrial is only with the murder case. Now what they found is that the clerk of the court was improper, and I think she actually pled I think the clerk, um, pled guilty already. I don't know that for fact, someone can fact check me on, but I think the clerk pled guilty. So this is the way this works. The clerk the clerk see? The clerk was accused of, and I think pled guilty to, putting her thumb on the scales of justice, they call it. A clerk during a jury trial has a ton, and I'm talking about the bench clerk. Those women, usually they're women, sitting beside the judge typing and monitoring and making sure things are proper, paper is the way it should be. They have a lot of influence over a juror. Whenever there's a break, whenever there's, giving them donuts, giving them food, making sure there's coffee. They can do stuff that will leave impressions with a jury. They actually can, and they do. In a lot of these small towns, these clerks hold a lot of influence with jurors whenever there's a big jury trial. There's been instances where certain lawyers will provide coffee and donuts to jurors, and they'll have their advertisements in the jury room during one of their trials. So there's all kinds of little sneaky things that they do, but apparently this clerk already pled guilty. He's going to get a new trial because of that. But I think the evidence is so overwhelming, he ain't walking. They're going to convict him again. So I don't think there's nothing new. It's flashy, and there'll be a lot of eyeballs on it because it'll probably be a televised trial. And I just from the I don't even think it was close, you know, the conviction. I'd have to recall it and go back and look, but I think his last conviction wasn't even close. So I don't think the outcome is gonna be any different. But if it's wrong, it's wrong. If this clerk was improper, then the proper thing to do is to have another trial, you know? It sucks, but that's, I think, the proper thing to do. And it seems as though there's plenty of evidence to to support a new trial. I don't particularly have a problem with it, if it's wrong. Becky, no, I think he got a I don't know if he got a bond, but I think he's being held from stealing his client's money, I think. I don't know that for sure, but I think so. I don't think he's getting out, because I think he was tried on a couple of things, and that was one of them. But I think for stealing his client's money, he was also tried. But again, I'm telling you something that I actually don't know for fact. So, he might be incarcerated for another issue. So, well, guys, and I'm telling you, if you have something local and you want me to talk about it, I'm happy to, but I need articles. I need a receipt. I need receipts of where you're getting the story, not just something you conjured up, because we talk about corruption. Everybody believes that their case got a lot of corruption in it. You don't know how many times people will call me and they'll set aside time. They'll even pay me to listen to them on a consult about some corruption. And it's not really corruption at all. It's just that they had a bad outcome, and instead of taking accountability for their bad case, they got to blame somebody. A lot of people live with that their whole life, believing that somebody screwed them on their case because they don't have the ability to look at their case objectively. And so, if you've got a real case in your local town where someone, I don't care how small it is, if there's real legitimate corruption and they've been indicted, well, let's talk about it. I'll dig into it. If you want to buy me a cup of coffee, I'll happily do that. If you are a super fan, just send it to me that you've already bought my cup of coffee if you're a super fan, and you know what I mean by super fan over there in the TT. YT and FB don't have anything similar, but if you want to go to my LINK, you'll see there where I have a app that has a dollar sign on it, and you can get me a cup of coffee on that one. So if you like what I do, guys, share it with people, share it with friends. Um, you know, would love to help you out. You can book a call. I've got merchandise, and some of you on my YT channel can see my nifty little mug right there. Look at the mug up there, up there, up there, my mug. I got some t-shirts, got a nifty little t-shirt here on the side. I don't think you can see it, but there's one here behind me too. So my merchandise, take a look. Book a call if you got your rear end in a crack. And if you want me to talk about a local story you have, I'm happy to dig into it, look into it, maybe even make some calls and get some people up here, maybe have a guest, talk about the case. Just so that you know, in the future, I will be having my prosecutor friend who is an archaeologist, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Bible, and we're going to talk about archaeology that supports the existence of the Almighty, of Jesus. Um, so, looking forward to it. Elizabeth was supposed to be on here today, but I think she had a coyote. We have a place. We share a place. She and her and me and my wife share a place with her down in Ona, and um she has a cat that was shredded by some coyotes, and so she called the Department of Wildlife or whatever, Fish and Game and Wildlife, whatever it is there in Florida, and they're up there investigating, I guess. And she's probably talking their damn leg off. Knowing her, she's probably just giving them what for. So we got a lot of stuff coming on YouTube channel. She committed. Yeah, Alexandra. Alexandra's in the chat, and she is, yes, yes. Apparently, I've got pictures, but I can't show them. Marianne asked me not to show them. I've not looked at them. I haven't looked at them. Coyotes aren't protected species. You can just about do whatever you want to with a coyote. They're not protected as far as I know. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, yeah, Elizabeth, it was good. Elizabeth likes her animals. Now, I just gonna tell you, I'm not a cat fan. And I don't like them. I think they're a mess and they smell bad. I don't care how clean you are, and it's gonna get me some hate, but I'm gonna say it. If you have a cat in your house, as soon as someone comes in the door, they can smell it. I don't care how clean you are, that's fact. So, I for that reason, I don't like them. A lot of allergies, so I can't deal with a cat. I didn't want I didn't want a coyote, I didn't want a coyote to eat it up, but I certainly don't want another one, and I asked her not to bring another one in. So, I didn't want the thing to lose its life, but I'm glad it's not in the house anymore. I mean, I know that sounds bad for me. I've told Elizabeth, though. It's not a surprise. I just I do like dogs, but now they can also be a mess. You know, you walk in a house, not easier to clean for to take care of. Dogs are a lot easier to take care of than a cat. Cat just smells. Yeah, you can smell them. Cats are Dogs are way better than cats, Alexandra, I would agree. You almost don't know a dog is in the house unless it sheds a lot. I've been in houses where I've had really nice clothes. Woohoo, thanks for that. I've been someone giving me a gift over there in the TT. I've been in houses that had dogs and really nice clothes, and you leave with all kinds of hair on, and I just wouldn't do that to my friends. So, you know, I don't have a problem with them. I like dogs, but, you know, the hair and all of that, is problematic. But I do like dogs. I'm a dog lover. We've always had dogs at our house, but they were outside dogs. We never had an inside dog. I clean after I've been cleaning after inside animals my whole life. I had I had 4 kids that I considered to be inside animals, and they've all left, and I don't want the responsibility of cleaning up after another inside animal. So there you go. Someone says in the chat they already have a husband. That's the way I look at it. I clean, but I just don't have to clean up after an animal. I'm done cleaning up after other things. I'm tired, and when I go somewhere, I don't want to have to worry about riding with an animal because they stink up the car. I don't want to have to worry about. I don't want to have to worry about finding a hotel that's pet friendly. I don't want to have to worry about walking an animal. And I know that sounds bad, but I don't wanna have to worry about it. So, I do like them. If they're outside, I love outside dogs, love them, but I just don't wanna have to keep up after one. When they're outside, you can get out and play with them, give them a little home and feed them, and they're wonderful pets, but I don't like them inside. But now if you do like them, I'm not throwing shade on you, I'm just saying it's not my preference. But now cats are absolutely nasty. They're dirty, they jump up on your tables, you know, so there you go with the cats. But I didn't think the little cat needed I don't know which one it was. There was 2 of them. I can't remember their names. Um, it didn't deserve to be. We do have a little dog, but it don't stay in the house, it stays out in the lanai. Every now and then it comes in, but it truly does. Dogs don't stink. The only problem I have with our dog is it sheds a lot. There's a lot of hair. But that's that just something if you don't mind cleaning up after them, but they don't smell bad. I'm not opposed to dogs, but I don't wanna have to care for one. My daughter has the dog. They walk it, they take care of it. I just don't want that responsibility because it's a lot to walk a dog twice a day and take care of them, and I just don't want that responsibility. I got other things to do. So But now he's, Teddy is the dog's name. That's our little dog in Florida. Elizabeth has had Teddy for many years. That's, um, the kid's pet. So, well, guys, I'm going to get off of my YT stream, YT and FB. Thank you, guys. I'm going to stay on my TT for a minute or two. Thank you, guys, for that. Thank you for showing up. I do appreciate you. Listen, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to try to be on here by about 11 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That is the goal. If you have a story, send it to me through email. But if you want to make sure that I talk about your local corruption story, I would love to do it. But that's going to cost you. If you're a super fan, you've already paid the price. If you're not a super fan, then maybe a donation might be in order. So, guys, look at my merchandise and all of that. And if you have an issue, you can certainly book a call for personal attention. And let's remember, guys, out there in YT and FB, if life and law collide, just like that, if life and law collide in your world and you ain't got nowhere to go, nobody to talk to, won't you give me a holler and then book a call? That's what you can do. Until next week, we will see you later, guys. Thank you. Thank you.